So I want to invite you on a journey with me. We are going back to about 2,000 years. Can you imagine that? We're going back into 2,000 years. And we're going to the open hillside. You picture the open hillside, there's an open hillside. And the sky is full of stars. And the air smells of dust and dry grass. You get that scent? And you can smell livestock. Get the scent? And the wind seemed to carry the sound in far distance. And there is darkness, and the kind of darkness where there's no street light and there are no cell phones to provide light. And in that darkness, scattered across the hills, there are sheepfolds or sheep pens. These constructions, low walls they're stacked with stones, they're low walls stacked with stones, and they're kind of roughly circular, and sometimes they have, as a covering, they have branches over them. They are elegant. They are not comfortable. And inside is a small flock of sheep. And they're pressing against each other. They're beeping and they're pressing against each other for warmth. And the only opening in the wall, the gap that serves as a gate, sits a man. And his body fills the opening. Are you still with me? Mm-hmm. I hope I didn't lose you. And there is no other entrance. There is no other exit but through this man at this space. And he sleeps lightly if he sleeps at all. If a predator comes, if a lion or a thief or a wolf comes, it must pass by this man in order to gain access to the sheep. It is a world where there were no fences and there were no security systems. There were no, what are the security systems we have now? There's none of that. There were no animal control. And this man's willingness to put his body between the sheep and the darkness is a matter of life and death. And that is the word in which Jesus speaks when he says, I am the gate. A living, breathing, dangerous, costly, beautiful reality. So we need to understand the shepherd before we understand the gate, because in the ancient world, these two were inseparable. In the Near East, shepherding was an art that was learned from childhood. It was passed from father to son. The father taught the son how to be a shepherd. It required physical courage, intimate knowledge, and a total commitment. A shepherd did not manage sheep from a distance. He lived with them. He moved with them across vast rocky terrains and through valleys and uphill, downhill. He traveled with them into places where there were grass and water. A shepherd knew his sheep by name, literally knew his sheep by name. Each sheep had a name. He literally knew the sheep by name. Each sheep had a personality, a history. And the shepherd had a memory, remembering and could recall every single detail about each sheep. He knew which one limped when it They all responded. Not because they were well trained, but because the relationship was rare. His voice was woven into their earliest memories. And his voice was like the sound of safety. When they heard the voice of the shepherd, they felt safer. A good shepherd in those days would die for his flock. It was actually expected. And if a lion came for the sheep, the shepherd did not run. He lifted his staff and he fought the lion or whatever animal or whatever thief. David, before he became king, he fought off lions and bears to protect the flock owned by his father. Moses spent 40 years shepherding his father-in-law's flock in the wilderness before God called him to shepherd an entire nation. The life of the shepherd was a preparation for the life of the leader, precisely because both roles require the same thing: the willingness to spend yourself for others in your care. And when God, through the prophet Ezekiel, condemned the leaders of Israel, he used the language of shepherding. And God said, "You eat the fat, you clothe yourselves with wool, you slaughter the fat ones, but you do not feed the sheep. The weak you have not strengthened, the sick you have not healed, the injured you have not bound up, the strayed you have not brought back, the lost you have not sought." Ezekiel 34, verses 3 and 4. So this is a portrait of a bad shepherd, the one who uses the flock for his own benefit while the sheep wander and die. So it is into that long tradition, into that long experience of the history that Jesus steps in and Jesus says, "I am the good shepherd, I'm the real one, I'm the real deal, the one you have been waiting for." Now the gate does two completely different and equally essential things. When the gate is closed, it's protection. In the ancient sheepfold, the closed gate meant safety. Everything the shepherd cared for was inside. So the shepherd laying at the entrance there was considered as a closed gate. The wolves, the thieves, the bandits, they were on the outside. And the closed gate was the line between life and destruction. A shepherd who left the gate unprotected was not being welcoming, he was being negligent. He was putting every animal inside at risk. So there is a secret seriousness to a closed gate. People who grow up on farms know in every fiber of their bones, you don't leave a gate open. Not ever, not for a moment. Because the cost of carelessness is not inconvenience, it is catastrophe. You lose animals, and losing animals means your livelihood is impacted and your family is undone. So Jesus says in verse 9, "Whoever enters by me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture in and out." In and out. You see, the gate is not a permanent enclosure. It is a threshold. A passage between the safety of the fold and the abundance of the pasture. The sheep will leave the fold, will leave the confinement of the sheepfold, and will be taken out into the pasture where they are able to feed on the grass and feed and experience water, refreshment for their souls. The sheep do not live inside the fold forever. They are not penned and confined. They go out through the gate every morning into the open fields, and the shepherd goes with them. The sheep never goes alone. The shepherd is always with them. The gate is closed to danger, and the gate is open to life. Get the picture? The gate that protects is the same gate that liberates. It protects them when the shepherd is at that enclosure, and when the shepherd removes himself from that enclosure, and the shepherd leads them to the pasture so that they can get food and they can get water, is a liberating experience. So security and freedom are not opposites here. They come through the same opening, under the same authority, in the same relationship. But Jesus is saying, I will keep that would destroy you out, and I will lead you to what will fulfill you. The gate is not a cage, the gate is the beginning of the journey. In this passage, Jesus contrasts himself with thieves and bandits, those who do not enter through the gate but climb in another way, who steal and kill and destroy. So the question the text puts to us is this: when Jesus opens the gate, do we open it with him? Or do we become the ones who stand in front of it? Think about how many ways we find to become gatekeepers in the name of God. And we do it with history. The accumulated culture of a congregation, the unspoken rules that we sometimes have in a congregation. And we say things that we never did that here before. This is not how we do things here. Why do you don't say things like that here abroad? We don't have that culture. But that church down the road, yeah, they do. You know what church I'm talking about. The ways of belonging that were never written down, but they are upheld with tremendous power. And Jesus says the thieves and bandits are the ones who do not enter through the gate, they climb over the wall. They impose access without relationship, and they take without giving. Friends, sometimes we who claim the name of the shepherd, we who claim followers of the shepherd, we have done the same thing from the inside, holding the gate open, holding the gate not open for others, but we become barriers for others to enter. Verse 3 says, the sheep hear his voice, and Jesus said, he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. The shepherd calls by name, personal and direct. In the ancient world, the call of the shepherd was so distinctive that even in a crowded market, while there were multiple flocks around, when the shepherd called the sheep was able to discern the shepherd's voice and respond to the call of the shepherd. Isn't that amazing? The voice was the identity. The voice was the relationship. The voice was about the relationship. And what this means is that the relationship between Jesus and those who follow him is built on recognition. The recognition of a voice that has been with you from the beginning, that knows your name, not just a label, but knows your story and loves you anyway. Friends, the gate is still open. It is not shut by a cross. It is not shut by the disciples' fear or failures. It is not been shut by the church's sins, as many as they are. It is been opened. The resurrection of Jesus is, among other things, the announcement that the gate could not be shut. The gate could not be sealed. The stone rolled away from the tomb on Easter morning, and it has been never rolled back. Every attempt to close what God has opened has failed, is failing, and will fail. Jesus says in verse 10, I came that that they may have life and have it abundantly. The word abundantly here means overflowing beyond what you counted on, more than you bargained for. Friends, this is not a God who rations grace. This is a God who overflows with his love and his mercy and his goodness. This is a God who does not offer sparingly. This is a God who loves us unconditionally. It is not about what we have done or what we haven't done, where we came from, or anything about us. It is about God himself. That's who God is. The same God who led the people of Israel out of Egypt to the wilderness, he provided manna more than they could eat. He turned water into wine at Cana more than the party needed. He fed 5,000 people on a hillside and collected 12 baskets of leftovers. 12 baskets. And this is what is on the other side of the gate. Not mere portion, not barely enough, abundantly, lavishly, extravagantly, a pasture that doesn't run out. And that's the God we serve. But God's love is abundant. God's grace is generous. The God who has sent his only Son, Jesus, the Christ, into this world to rescue us, who stands at the gate, who sits at the gate, who waits at the gate for you and for me to receive us and to welcome us and to show us the way. So the gate is open and the shepherd is calling and the pastor is real. So what is your response? What is our response? And the first response is to walk through. You see, some of us have been told a story, or we have told ourselves a story about why we are not the kind of sheep who gets in. And the second response is to start knocking the gate for others. We need to examine the ways we have made the approach to the gate harder than the shepherd intended, to open what we have been closing. And the third response is to become like the shepherd ourselves, to practice being the kind of person who makes it easy for others to hear the voice of the shepherd and easier for them to find the gate, easier to believe that there is room for them in the field. And this is sheep work. Sheep work is not easy work. It is not glamorous, it is dusty, it is slow, and sometimes thankless. The sheep do not always appreciate the shepherd. They wander toward danger even when safety is offered. They are contrary creatures. We are contrary creatures. Don't you agree? And that is precisely the point. The shepherd doesn't serve the already devoted. He searches for the wandering one. He goes out in the dark for the lost ones, and he calls the name of the one who has given up on hearing his voice. And when we do that for one another, when we go out and search, when we call people by their actual names, when we make the gate findable for the ones who have been told it is closed, we are participating in the very life of the shepherd. We are holding the gate open with Jesus the Christ. When Jesus calls himself the gate, he's describing what he did. He placed his body between the sheep and the darkness. He absorbed what would have destroyed them. Friends, the cross is not an accident. The cross is not an accident in this story. It is a shepherd fulfilling what every shepherd in every fold under every star thick sky of the ancient world was already doing. And so Jesus has opened the gate for you and for me. Friends, the gate is open. The shepherd is calling. He's calling you by your name. He knows your name. Gloria, Ruby, Freddie, Priscilla, Ryan, Barbara, Bruce, Bob, Jean. He's calling you. He's calling us by name. Your specific, particular, known since before you were born name. That even while you were knitted in the intricate parts of your mother's womb, he knew you and he calls you by name. The gate is open for you. Step in, accept, acknowledge, receive. Amen.